after a relatively quiet N7 day, we didn't learn much more about Mass Effect 5 than we already know. So will Mass Effect 5 survive based on everything we know so far? I'd say it has a good chance of surviving and being relatively successful because of the data that backs up Mass Effect 5's current plan. Let's dive into everything, like why we're getting another tease soon, the intriguing data that backs up Mass Effect 5's plan, the kind of confirmations, and the 100% confirmations. We'll start with the confirmed characters first, with the first character being a very familiar face. In the 2020 Game Awards trailer, we saw none other than Liara T'Soni revealed right at the end. And then, on N7 Day 2022, we heard Liara speaking to a Geth.
Exactly. The Council will be furious. Although they should know by now not to underestimate instincts in different lanes.
Add to that the tease from N7 Day 2023, where this is likely Liara as well, and she is by far the most teased character, which means that she's probably a lock for returning in Mass Effect 5 and playing some type of significant role. But because we know so little about everything else, we still don't know what role she'll play. We have no idea if she'll be a squad mate again, or an advisor to us, or even some other role entirely. All we know for certain is that she will be in the next Mass Effect, just like the second confirmed character. On N7 Day 2023, we were shown a new N7 who was wearing a very sleek coat and who wielded a silencer pistol. Speculation has been rampant about whether we know this character or if there's someone new, with the theorizing around these parts assuming it's a bit of both. We also saw a full illustration of this N7, so clearly they're going to be important, but how important is anyone's guess. Now this new N7 and Liara are the literal only two confirmed characters for Mass Effect 5, and we might be seeing the N7 again next month in another tease, but I'll get to that later. For now, before going over the potential plot and other returning characters like Shepard, we'll stick to some more confirmed information, like the game's engine. Back in 2021, one of the producers for Mass Effect 5 took to Twitter asking for programmers with Unreal Engine 4 or 5 experience. And the executive producer for the next Mass Effect, Mike Gamble, also hinted at Unreal Engine 5 when replying to this tweet on improvements for the engine with metahumans. Obviously, Mass Effect has a lot of aliens who would be classified as metahumans in Unreal Engine 5, so this is the likely engine we'll see the game use. The clip of the new N7 walking specified gameplay not final, so this is probably our first look of how Unreal Engine 5 characters will appear in-game. Besides the technical side of things, the only other 100% confirmed info is on Mass Effect 5's tone. Over on Twitter, Gamble confirmed that Mass Effect will maintain the mature tone of the original trilogy, which is actually the best possible decision Mass Effect 5 could make, based on some data for sci-fi shooters we'll get to later. Okay, so that's all the confirmed information we know about the next Mass Effect. It obviously isn't much, but at least it's something. As to when we'll find out more, the game has been in pre-production since March of 2019, based on Gamble's LinkedIn. So we might begin to see more confirmed info after it begins production, which will probably start next year. BioWare has recently put up job listings for a lead-level designer, which means the missions for Mass Effect 5 are probably being sketched out. The exact design of missions is usually one of the last pieces of the puzzle in storytelling blockbusters like Mass Effect, so hopefully production kicks off in 2026. Alright, so after all those confirmations, let's move on to the kind of confirmed info on the potential plot and other returning characters like our commander. The one consistent tease across all N7 days has been some reference to Shepard. We've seen Liara pick up an N7 insignia and fondly brush it, which could be because it belonged to Shepard. And on N7 Day 2024, we saw a very blatant Shepard reference with a phrase from Harding's note saying, "Someone shepherded it to our doorstep." We've also seen Gamble reference Shepard in his N7 Day blog posts, like the classic one in 2023, "What about S? Never mind, ... You get the idea. Whether or not Shepard will return for Mass Effect 5 is the most danced around topic, and yet the Mass Effect team themselves are the ones refusing to let the idea die. So as to whether Shepard will return, they're not 100% guaranteed yet, but obviously we're going to see something Shepard related based on all the teases. Something else that isn't 100% guaranteed but teased heavily as well is the next game being a sequel to both the trilogy and Andromeda. Over on Twitter, when Lazaire had asked if we were going to get a single sequel to both the trilogy and Andromeda, Gamble replied, "Intentional." Even in other teases like this one from N7 Day 2022, symbols from both the trilogy and Andromeda are used in equal amounts. So it's a pretty safe bet to assume that Mass Effect 5's plot will somehow bridge the end of Mass Effect 3 with events from the Helios cluster. Other kind of confirmations are the Geth playing a bigger role because of all the Geth teases, and that a first contact scenario will likely play out as well, which we were first teased with in the 2020 trailer. And then in the 2022 Relay tease, we saw this in the bottom corner's text. The numbers 314 were pointedly shown, which connects to the Relay 314 incident from the games, also known as humanity's first contact war. So based on those teases, I'm thinking that Mass Effect 5 will feature a first contact scenario of its own, probably not leading to anything good. But I won't dive into my unhinged theories here. Instead, let's chat about the whole EA acquisition situation, and why Mass Effect 5 probably won't be cancelled because of their current data-backed plan. For anyone who hasn't heard yet, EA recently inked a new acquisition deal where the company will now be controlled by the government of Saudi Arabia and a company run by Jared Kushner. So yeah, bad vibes all around because video game companies being owned by governments and bad people isn't good for anyone except the executives already making millions. Now the biggest reason to be worried about this new acquisition, which comes into effect around April next year, is the censorship displayed by governments abroad. Obviously, we know where Kushner stands on things like diversity, and Mass Effect has been a very diverse franchise since 2007. So rightfully, because of this, fans are pretty worried about whether Mass Effect 5 might get cancelled before even hitting production. On N7 Day this year, we did get confirmation from Gamble that the next Mass Effect game is in development, and EA and BioWare remain committed to telling more stories in this universe. Which definitely isn't enough to inspire confidence, but at least the executive producer of Mass Effect acknowledged the situation. This isn't why I think Mass Effect 5 won't get cancelled by its new owners though. It's because of the new sci-fi IPs like Exodus, The Expanse, Osiris Reborn, and Intergalactic. These franchises didn't just suddenly decide to spring up a year or two ago. Studios like Archetype Entertainment, Owlcat Games, and Naughty Dog began making these games because right now, sci-fis are very much in, which some very reliable data backs up. According to data from Quantic Foundry in 2023, which collected direct assessments from over 1.25 million players, fans are desperate for sci-fi games. And not just sci-fis, but sci-fi shooters like Mass Effect. Quantic Foundry found that 50% of shooter fans rated hard sci-fi games very or extremely appealing. And shooter fans 35 plus were twice as likely compared to teens to rate hard sci-fi games extremely appealing. What this data means from a pure analytical standpoint is that Mass Effect 5's plan is a really good one. Gamble has stated that Mass Effect is going to maintain the mature tone of the trilogy, and the trilogy itself was made to appeal to older players in their late 20s and 30s. Add to that the many teases that point to Mass Effect 5 being a sequel to the trilogy and Andromeda, and Mass Effect 5's current plan is clearly aimed at older players who are craving good sci-fis, which the data says is the best possible audience to target. The best data of all though for Mass Effect 5's plan is all of the sci-fi IPs suddenly cropping up. Exodus and Osiris Reborn aren't just making their hard sci-fi shooter games in a vacuum. They're making it because data like this shows that sci-fis in this decade are going to succeed, especially among players who have money to spend in their 30s. Because EA is so revenue-driven, this is why I think Mass Effect 5 has survived all of BioWare's recent turmoil. They probably view the well-established sci-fi franchise of Mass Effect as their ace in the hole because of the incoming sci-fi surge. So because of all this data, I don't think Mass Effect 5 will be cancelled, even under new owners, because otherwise, EA will be leaving free money on the table, which they simply don't do. And speaking of free money, that's probably why Mass Effect 5 has shown us so much trilogy nostalgia in the first place. When the Mass Effect Legendary Edition launched in 2021, its sales caught EA completely off guard. During an investor call that same year, EA CEO Andrew Wilson revealed that the game sold well above expectations. And on top of that, during a pandemic year where everyone was playing games at home, the Legendary Edition finished 2021 as one of the 12th highest selling new releases on Steam alone. So with that in mind, it comes as no surprise that of all the teases we've seen for Mass Effect 5, it's pointing to a return to the Milky Way, and potentially the return of Shepard. EA knows that Shepard and nostalgia in general sells well, especially to a more mature, older audience like Mass Effect fans. As much as I know how some fans are craving a completely new story in the Mass Effect universe, that just isn't what the next Mass Effect is going to be. There of course will be new aliens and storylines, but probably not as many new characters as some want. With everything we know so far, Mass Effect 5 is looking like a sequel to the Legendary Edition and Andromeda because BioWare desperately needs an easy win. Now, if this is the case, we have to ask ourselves the big question. When will we actually begin to learn more about Mass Effect 5 in a major reveal? I think the answer can be summed up with this views comparison. On N7 Day 2023, we got an actual gameplay clip and character reveal, but it only has 755k views. And during the Game Awards in 2020, we got a full-length trailer that didn't have many major reveals except when we saw Liara at the end. However, this video has 6.2 million views, over 8 times as many as the new N7 reveal a couple years ago. So with the recent quieter N7 day in mind, we need to stay aware that major reveals will be saved for Game Awards style events. Mass Effect 5 needs to sell millions of copies, so we'll only learn the juicy confirmations during big events where millions of players are watching. And that type of juicy confirmation might be sooner than we think. When looking at the latest N7 Day blog, I noticed a strange pattern in the italicized words and letters. Out of the entire blog, only 2 Mass Effects were italicized, while the rest of them in the yellow circles weren't. For the first italicized one, it involved a URL for MassEffect.com using the word Krogan. This is what eventually led us to the Krogan Civil War tease. However, we haven't yet used the second italicized Mass Effect, and this italicized N7. Does this mean another Mass Effect URL is incoming relating to this N7? If so, then maybe, just maybe, we're about to get a juicy confirmation we've been waiting for at this year's Game Awards. My guess is that if this italicized N7 is a legit tease, we're probably going to get a URL with a countdown closer to the Game Awards. And if we do, then we might finally get another confirmation about the new N7. Until then, watch this video next to see why the Krogan tease from N7 Day is actually the darkest plot reveal for Mass Effect 5 yet. See ya there.